Alrighty, everyone. Happy Tuesday, day 3,004,675 of the COVID quarantine madness. This also marks the beginning of what I like to call season two of the Trish Point oh show. Really, it's just, I had a bunch of interviews and then it's a break and then I'm having a couple more interviews. And certainly, I am super stoked to have today's guest on because, of course, June is Pride Month. My next guest should be 100% proud of who he is because he's just this rock star in the events industry. But if you know him, then this is not hyperbole. This is 100% the truth. So let's go ahead and get Fausto Pifferrer, okay, woo, on the line. Fausto, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I was digging the music. I was like jamming in the background. So
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, you know what, and I always kind of, when I talk to guests and I have them come on, I'm like, it's a little janky, it's a little 1980s, but I'm getting there. It's
I
like,
like
I've changed the background, I've changed the wallpaper, I did the overlay, I've gotten it a little bit more branded. Next up is the video.
it.
Um, Baby steps, one
All
foot
right.
in front of the other.
I,
What, you know?
I grew up in the '80s. I was really rocking out to it. So I loved
I
it.
love it. I love it. Well, Fausto, certainly, for those of you who know you, certainly no introduction is needed. But for those out there who do not know you, please let people know who you are and what you do.
I am Fausto Pifferrer. I own an event company in the state of Maine. I am actually going into my 35th year of catering, if you can believe it or not, or in the event world. I started out as a planner and I bought my catering company to have control of the timelines, which are really important to me.
Yeah.
And pivoting seems to be a really important word that everybody's using. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been pivoting for 35 years because I'm always trying to figure out my lane, and which I'll talk about lanes in a little bit. But I've enjoyed this 35-year ride. I wouldn't change a thing. So we're up here in the state of Maine, and I'm going into 14 years in this state, originally from Philadelphia.
Yeah, and you had, we were just, chatting about your amazing story, and your foray into the industry. Your first job, in the events industry. How old were you, and how did that even happen?
It was 1985 to 92. I and don't judge. I was working for a supermarket that was doing catering, and
Right.
I thought, well, and I'm going to be honest with all this because that's who I am. I actually dropped out of high school. It wasn't for me. I actually walked out on my senior year with 40 days left, and I said, I'm done. I literally said, I'm done, and I walked out the door. Um, and I realized that I enjoyed the food industry. And maybe it was quick money in my head. I was young, and I started to develop a little catering company that I was calling Express Caterers. But I had to change the name because people thought Express that I was running in and running out. So I called it Expressive Special Affairs. And I had a woman who gave me my first real catering gig, and her name is Mary. And it was in a church basement. And I know a lot of caterers started like this, but I mean, I literally was working out of my mom's basement, church basement. Food, if you're from Philadelphia, there were things like beef and beers, coleslaw, potato salad, things of that nature. Not the best food. And I had Mary in the back of my mind always. And 9 years later, as my career goes in, I took a job with these two women from 92 to about 2000. And I said to myself, I actually had that moment, that aha moment in the mirror, and I said, wake up, use this as your college, and educate yourself in this career. Make sure you know everything from the financial part, the planning part, catering, food. I can do the kitchen, I can do all of it. So, because you never know what you're going to need outside of if this fails. And so I did, and 9 years into my career, I wound up doing this really high-profile wedding. The bride wore this Vera Wang haute couture Vera Wang three coals when she was Vera Wang, and I say that because
The good old days.
the good old days when Vera Wang was Vera Wang, and the dress was 20 grand. And I was shocked. I had never been in a room with somebody wearing a $20,000 dress. Now, remember, I started my career with a beeper, a word processor, and a fax machine. And oh yeah, the word processor was always good.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I made it. And I didn't make it. I made it with Mary. And I didn't realize it until I started doing more and more jobs. Because the reality, when that job with that $20,000 dress and $120 per person to just drop china and silverware, I'm not even talking food, in a clear top tent, because we were doing clear top tents long before they started getting popular in Maine, because now they've come this way.
Right.
And I look at it like, if it wasn't for Mary, I can't take Colleen's wedding and saying that's where I made it. I didn't, because you're only as good as your last event. And so when that event is over, it's over. So who cares about that anymore? You just have to make sure that, Monday starts a new week, starts a new challenge of the following weekend's event. So that's how I really got my foot in the door. And that takes me from 85 to 2000. And then 2000 took a different route.
Right. Then that took a totally different, that just took a different road entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's I think it's you strike on a couple of things from the earlier parts of your career, where you and I have that opinion in common, where we're not here to say that if if you're out there and you're considering a pivot into the events industry, or you're just like brand new, that's necessarily a bad thing, because there is a low barrier of entry to everything that we do. I mean, there are very few positions in the events industry that you cannot begin, at least on some level, with no university experience, no hospitality degree, no certifications, nothing. You can just start. The difference between that person who starts and does this because they're trying something new, and that person who becomes a professional, is the level of education that they invest in for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like are they out there, like, investing in association memberships, learning what they need to learn from a business perspective, really building this out as a career and as a fully formed business, or is this a hobby? And certainly, and hobbyist can be found, in all aspects. There are people with hospitality degrees that go to work for hotels, and that, that are really just kind of hobbyists. They're not, they go in, they punch a clock, they go home, they don't really think about it. So they do it because they enjoy it, but it's not something that they're passionate about.
And I
Yeah.
agree with that, because one thing that I always say to everybody is that I don't consider myself done. I'm still learning.
Right.
So how
Still
can
going. Yeah.
an expert when I am still educating myself, and there's always something new to learn?
Yeah.
And I posted this on one of my pro tips that I've been putting down since COVID started. If you don't get butterflies at an event, then get out, because
Right.
that means you're done. You're over it. And I get butterflies at every one of my events, not because I'm nervous that it's not going to go well, because there's nothing I can control in life. If it doesn't go well, life happens. And I've stopped worrying about mistakes, because we're all entitled to them. We forgot we're human in this industry. Somehow everything's supposed to be Pinterest ready.
Yeah.
And I'm so done with that, because we can't. You have to constantly keep educating yourself, go to conferences, align yourself with groups, and make sure those groups align with your value.
Right.
That it's not just to form. The groups that I belong to, I believe in, and I respect. And I'm hoping that they in these times right now that we're affected right now with COVID and with everything that's going on in the world, that these associations take a stand and understand that we're being vulnerable, and we're asking you for guidance in this industry. So.
Yeah, and I think that what's been really interesting to me is to see what associations have done and how they've necessarily responded. And what's become apparent to me is that many of them are looking to their membership base to
Mm-hmm.
see how we respond, to see what we're talking about, and they take their cues from there.
Exactly.
which is not an entirely a bad place, a bad perspective to be in. Because there's certainly, when you belong to an association, that association is there to serve you. And I don't think that a lot of people get that. Like, if I have a membership, like you and I are, we've met through our membership with NACE.
Hmm.
NACE is there to serve us as members. So certainly, we do our part, we contribute, we network, we educate, we do all the things. But the relationship is really, they're driving content based on what we want to hear. And so we have to be vocal about what we want to hear, if that
Exactly.
makes sense.
And it's interesting because one of the tasks that I set for myself was to bring NACE to the state of Maine. And that
Nice.
was a little bit of a challenge to
Yeah.
be the founding person, but to also take a back seat and not sit on the board because I didn't want to be, oh, he's taking something else on, or he's he's driving in the wrong lane. And I want to end the myth of the lane thing because that really bugs me because
Right.
everybody is staying your lane. I grew up in Philadelphia, and one of the roads had 8 lanes. It was the Roosevelt Boulevard, 8 lanes, 4 on this, 4 here, 4. So it was 16 total. The first lane you drive because it's slow and safe. Then the middle and the third and the fourth and the eighth are the ones you want to get home because you want to be home in a half an hour
Right.
because you can drive fast. And the only reason I say to people, lanes are meant to be driven in. And if you're not driving them, you're going to be left behind. And that's okay if you want to stay in your lane. But for somebody who has been driving those lanes for 35 years and I've never stepped out of any lane, I've just been driving in all of these different lanes. You might be new to the industry and think that, oh, he's a planner, oh, he's a caterer. Well, what is he? Well, read my bio. It's out there. I've never hidden behind something saying that I'm not who I am. This is me. I am a planner, and my company's name is Blue Elephant Events and Catering. So catering always takes a secondary part to it, and I have people who have actually changed the name of my company to Blue Elephant Catering because they're afraid of the event part, which I
Right.
understand. And I think that sometimes there's where the education part of it doesn't come in. And I wanted to bring Nathan to Maine because we didn't have a representation of the industry outside of our own little group here. And I said to somebody, I said, I'm tired of being the big fish in a small pond. I want to be the small fish in a big pond. And I want to be educated by all of these wonderful people, everybody. I don't care if you have 1 year, 2 year, but I want you to give the same respect that I deserve or that I'm entitled after 35 years of walking the talk in this
Right.
industry. I'm not asking for pats on the back. I'm published in 7 states. I'm in a hardback book. I'm good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right now, I
Yeah.
want a little bit of respect. And sometimes it does feel a little condescending because is it because I'm male? Is it because I'm Hispanic? And I'm not throwing the Hispanic part out there because I don't think a lot of people realize that I'm Spanish. Or is it I'm gay? Like I don't know. I juggle those in my head and in my feelings because it's really hard. Because why couldn't I take a seat on the board that I brought in of a
Yeah.
group that I'm so passionate about? But I was afraid to because I didn't think people would join because I was on there. And that's allowed, and I'm allowed to express that because it was my truth, and it's my truth. So
Yeah, I mean, and and that all kind of comes down to discrimination, which we're all of course talking about discrimination, very in a very vocal way
mhm,
right now, and it's a chapter we did a session yesterday about affecting social justice reform, which was fantastic, was great. If you haven't tuned into that one, make sure you get to tune into that one, people. But it discrimination happens on a multitude of levels, and you're right. It's like when you have when you have like the cards stacked against you. I don't know what it is to be in your shoes, but I know it's next door neighbor, which is the girl who is Greek, does not look Greek, is an immigrant but does not reflect what an immigrant should be, who is of a non-normative body size, so you never quite know what the objection is about. But I think that what you and I have done, and what we're really encouraging other people to do is Don't let it stop you. Like, it's gonna bother you.
Mhm.
It's gonna bother the hell out of you. But just because it's bothered you, just because it's hurt you, even, don't let that be the thing that stops you. Just keep going.
And it,
Yeah, because you have certainly kept going. You haven't let any of those things,
and
stop you.
and you're absolutely right, because when 2000 to 2004, and this is one of those pivoting moments that I did again,
Right.
I decided to throw my hat again into the realm of, okay, I'm going to own my own business again. And I went into business with two gentlemen, which at the time seemed like a great idea, but clearly was not. And I spent 4 years building their company up, only to have them try to sell it out from under me.
Ugh.
And but here's the best part, because I don't know how many people have either read The Secret or believe in The Secret, but the universe gives you what you can handle and takes away what you can't handle. And I'm a firm believer. I will say that to the day I drop dead. To me, everything I've done in this industry led to one thing, and it was the birth of my daughter in 2006. Because when I got out of this toxic relationship of a business in 2004, and I took them from this to this. And when I got out in 2004, that ladder that I've always talked about climbing up, you see everybody you literally stepped on. And that's when this realization came into my head going, I will never do that again. And in the Philadelphia area, there was one caterer that did not turn their back on me. And it was Meryl Snow from Festivities.
Wow.
Never turned her back. She actually invited me to the opening of her new commissary, and the invitation came, and I was there. And a lot of people that today I see sitting on the ICA or the LCA, and I've never really said it publicly, but they know there's that moment that you just go, okay, all is forgiven, but in the back of your head it hurt.
Right.
Believed one thing as opposed to the other. And I went to work for a restaurant from 2004 to 2006, and I have never worked in the restaurant industry. That isn't even a realm I know. But it was a decision that the universe made for me, because when I got to 2006, my daughter was waiting for me. So we got to adopt this beautiful creature, or the birth of this creature. And I don't say creature in a negative way, because it was the best thing, because all of the selfishness that I had inside of me was gone. And I think that that's sort of my rebirth when she was born in 2006, and when we made the decision to move. And then I believed, in my head, I said, oh, I needed this journey, and then this journey, and this to happen, because this was waiting for me at the end of this journey. And then came Maine, and the decision to move to Maine. My partner was originally from Maine, and we met in Philadelphia, and we've been together for 20 years. And it was either Florida or Maine.
Right.
And we opted for Maine because at the time in 2006 and 7, you could not, as a same-sex couple, because we weren't legally married, they could, if they chose to, take your child away. And we chose Maine because it was a little bit more liberal and a little bit more open. And, a lot of people don't understand that in 2006, when, I cut the umbilical cord, we were there when she was born, we took her home the next day. So we did everything aside from giving birth to her. So I know what it's like to be a parent opening a business with a child and not having daycare. But we did it, and I didn't have to say, I don't have childcare. We had to do it because we had to feed her, and we are both in this business together. And when we moved to Maine, it was a big eye-opener, because I was expecting to just roll right back into catering, because here I am, and I've done all these major events, and there was nothing. I mean, you couldn't even find Chiavari chairs. I had to buy my own Chiavari chairs because no rental company had them. And so it was really difficult. And then I opened during the recession. So you know what that's like. All the money.
Right. Right. It's just like, it seems like everything's stacked against you. But that's what, that's the beauty of hindsight, right? Is, I have my own sort of recession story, about that, about sort of like losing things on a big scale. But what I have discovered, is that I what I thought was losing on a big scale then was actually small potatoes.
Yeah.
And the lessons I learned as a result of losing on that level have taught me how to not lose now that I have much more on the line. Now that there's far more at stake in my life, I'm not, I'm better prepared against those mistakes. So I'm kind of glad that I, to have stumbled when I've stumbled, because that was just really, relatively speaking, like a small moment
And
in the life.
and I don't think people look at those as learning moments, all
Right.
those stumbles, and they should,
Yeah.
because they all help you along the way. I mean, that's just my take from it.
Right.
I try to look at things like 2008, 9, and 10 were super difficult. They were like beyond difficult. Like when I tell people we had a house in Philadelphia that wasn't selling, not to get into too much detail about my Philadelphia experience between 2000 to 2004, I was also being sued by my ex-business partners on top of everything else. So I had all of this nonsense going on. And like Tina Turner, I won. And so I walked away with that and out the door.
Right.
But then, you come up in 2011, 12, 13, and the horizon's getting better and better. And 2014, Maine explodes. I mean, it explodes with a vengeance. Now they're on 89 venue pages. Every other day, somebody's opening up a new venue. So it's now good. And everyone is large and in charge, I like to say. And the seat is getting smaller and smaller. And I think sometimes my passion gets mistaken for aggressiveness. And I can't change that because this is who I am. And if I were to walk into a room and be different, then I wouldn't be me. And I don't think I could look in the mirror and say, I like you and I like me. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I also understand that I can walk into a room and half the room hates me and half the room likes me. And I'm also okay with that.
Right. Look, you can't please everybody.
I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
I'm careful when I write stuff because my partner is an English major. So if I want something to be pretty, I let him write it. If not, it comes from me. I don't, when people correct your grammar or your punctuation, I'm like, you're just showing off. I just, I'd rather you be my friend than check my grammar. I said, what's that get you? Nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just as broke as I am. You know what I mean? So,
speaking as someone whose typos are infamous, people correct me all the time, and I'm like, should have written it yourself then. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know like, like especially like that which was funny. I was social media and communication chair for the DC chapter before I sort of stepped up in roles, and I have still been doing some of that for the chapter throughout the years. So something typos come through, people want to correct it. I'm like, yeah, well, it's what you get. That's what you get when I'm doing it. So
and I
sorry.
The same way. I have never felt the need to correct anybody in public, whether they've said my name wrong or any of that stuff. But there are people who love to call you out on the carpet. And I remember one time somebody calling me out on something, and I thought to myself, oh, well, that's interesting. I'm gay, and it doesn't offend me. So why would you call me out on something? Because I've been in this industry so long that my brain still works with bride and groom, and I'm retraining it in a different. And I am gay, and I'm very proud of it. I clearly, you can tell I'm gay. I couldn't be any gayer if my name was Gay Gaylord, but I'm gay, and so if I have a straight couple, I call the room a bride's room. If you are a same-sex couple, I call it a ready room. I don't care. I don't care what you want to call it. If you want to call it a hopping room, call it a hopping room. You know what? I go with the flow of the person that I'm with.
Sure. We
made an early on conscious decision never to make our website to say we are gay friendly. Clear, I'm gay. I'm going to be more than gay friendly to you. There is a photo of our family in our conference room. I ripped the Band-Aid right off you walk into our door.
Right.
But I'm not going to put flags all over my website to collect the almighty dollar. Do it because you're genuine. You know what I mean? When this was all coming up, I said to people, stop putting that on there if you really didn't believe in it 25 years ago. In the same way, when people are jumping on you know, the racial diversity that's that's happening, or the divide that's happening in our country. I want you to do it because you actually believe in it.
Right.
Don't do it because there's everybody's jumping on it right now. Look within yourself, and do you have gay people working in your company? Do you have people of color? Are the Hispanics not washing the dishes? That you have to ask yourself those questions, and I think a lot of that is opening up right now, and the diversity that we're finding ourselves within this industry right now.
Yeah, I look at the conversations that we're having, and it's, on one hand it feels exhausting, right? Because it feels like you've just been having the conversation over and over and over again, and you're just tired of the talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, in all of this, is really where is the place that I found myself in pretty quickly. It was like I'm tired of the talking about it. Let's do something about it. Like, it's fine. Like you want to post look, you want to be a wedding planner that that has always posted a particular aesthetic on your website, and now you post a different aesthetic on your website,
Mm-hmm.
because you want to like signal out there that you're inclusive. Fantastic. But you posted a photo.
Okay.
That's not the same thing as as if you call yourself a leader and going out there and doing something about it. And don't rely. Look, I mean, if you want to demonstrate that you are LGBTQ, did I get that right? I always get my I
There's
always get
so many letters now.
gay friendly. If you want to say gay friendly, right? Like in my day, it was called
Yeah.
gay friendly, and right. So if you want to, if you are and you want to demonstrate that, then don't just do something positive, to demonstrate that, and whether that is reach out to vendors who are of a different diversity mix than you normally deal with, or whatever it is, but just it's the action, that's really really important, and I think that's what it kind of comes down to, at the end of the day. And it's kind of like it's kind of like what you were talking about in terms of like when you pivot, when you do this, it's all about action. Like, it's all, you can talk the talk, you can talk a good game, but what actions are you taking?
Exactly, and actions come in many forms. When I
Yes.
started
Right.
to pivot,
Yes.
people assumed that I wanted to drive in the lane and take money. I would never take money away from somebody, but I don't have a partner or a husband or a wife, meaning in the straight world, a husband or a wife that's bringing in six figures, so you can concentrate on this little part of the wedding world. If
Right.
if Ruben and I aren't working together and the phones aren't ringing, then we're not.
There's no money. Right. You're not working, there's no money. Right.
Exactly. And so what you mistake as being aggressive, you mistake as this is a business.
Right.
And it's not just Ruben and myself relying on a paycheck. It's the 100 and some people that work for us, not only in the summer, but the 10 people that work in our office that, also rely on a paycheck to feed their families. So, sometimes I'm like, oh, the phones aren't ringing, or, get to that venue before somebody else gets to that venue. And I have never tried to block anybody from a venue. I have just always been a caterer planner that goes after an exclusive, because an exclusive also always makes you have money coming in the door. But that means that you have to take the good with the bad, because
Right.
at the end of the day, and with that, I think we've created, in our pivoting structure, and I say this because pivoting is the big word right now that everybody's using, which is funny because I've only heard it on Friends when they were trying to get that couch up the stairs.
I know. You know what? If you go to if you go to the Instagram page for the Trish.0 show,
Yeah.
which I really haven't like flushed out and done a lot with, it's kind of like at the last on my list of things to do, for this project. But that's the photo that I posted, was
Nice.
pivot and the sofa, because it's the same thing. It's like what is a pivot? I mean,
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, a pivot just means diversification, and and I'm 100% advocate. I have talked until I was blue in the face. I will keep continuously speaking on it. Business diversification is key. This is how you find yourselves in the middle of COVID and not crying salty tears.
And You're 100%. And I think when I teamed up with one of my planner friends, and she has also a florist company as well, and Lori Andrews Design, phenomenal designer. And I said to somebody once, I said, Lori's like water to me in this state. I need her to survive, and she needs me. And we work very well. We've never actually even had an argument back and forth. And so we created a division of our company called LeBlue, which is LA and Blue Elephant, but it's LeBlue. And we broker properties. Doesn't mean we have to work at the property. We make our percentage of selling the property
Right.
to somebody. So we make a commission off the property, which also then can lead to us working at the property. Then we created Bash, which is sort of a marketplace for wedding professionals to sort of it's almost like a concierge service.
Right.
And we positioned ourselves, positioned ourselves next to a David's Bridal. And before I actually did that, I sat in the parking lot to see the vehicles that were driving. Because
Smart.
here's the trick with David's Bridal. You might not get your dress there, but it's the only place open that you don't need an appointment to play dress up. So when they're done, they're walking up our stairs to come to our facility, where they can find photographers, bands, DJ, catering, florists, rental companies, everything's there, cake people. And it's like a one-day shopping experience without having the big sales call or without having a wedding show. So it was a win-win. And then we decided to buy a magazine. So we bought Real Maine Weddings. Well, we bought a percentage of it. So my partner is actually the editor of the magazine. And because that's where his career was, because he used to work for Templeton Press. And when I came into the magazine, I said, I want more diversity. And that's just what I want. And this was a year and a half ago. I said, I want to see people of color. I want to see gay people. And I don't want to be the gay person in the 89th page. I want to be page 1, 2, or 3. And I want the same thing. In the bridal collection, I want to see women of color and men of color. And that's what I got.
Right.
Because that's what I wanted. Because I came in there with a clear expectation that this is what I want for the magazine moving forward. And those were all, and I call them my exit strategies. Putting the pivot over here, but there were my exit strategies to get out of. I'm 52. I've been doing this for 35 years. The schlepping of tables and moving everything and the worrying gets to you sometimes. I still love it. I still get the butterflies. I still enjoy it. But my back hurt a little bit more. My knees hurt a little bit more. And I was looking at ways that I can still stay within the industry that I absolutely love and adore, without having to do the heavy lifting of the catering, not the heavy lifting of helping my peers achieve their goals, because I'm all for helping you along the way. I just don't want to be stepped on because it sucks. So that's my one thing too that I'm going to say.
Right. Don't tread on me.
Don't tread on me. I'm here to help you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, but that's but let's talk about like exit strategies, right? Because you have been in the industry for 35 years, and there are a certain percentage of people out there who've either folded shop, Joy Wallace out of Florida. She closed shop this year, which was a total shock to me, because she's just phenomenal, just someone that I've always admired, and whose business I love. But she's like, you know what, I'm tired. I've been at this for a lot of years, and I just don't want to ride this out anymore.
Yep.
And that is, the goal, I think, for a lot of business owners, to eventually get to a point where, you can, it's not necessarily walking away from all the aspects of the business, but it's cherry picking.
Yep.
That's for me what it is. It's like getting to a place where you can cherry pick your day and say, this is what I'm going to work on this week. This is how I'm going to help the businesses this week. But I know that if I do none of it, if I just blow it all off and spend 2 weeks in the Bahamas, it'll be fine, and I will still get my money out of this. So that's kind of the goal that I think we all work for. So what is the sort of, like, have you thought about like what that next doorway is that you'll walk out, once you get these businesses to that point where you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm good, I'm even, I've structured them the way that I'm going to structure them. What's the next project for you? or have you thought about it?
Well, we're working on a couple of things actually.
Okay.
I created the
Well, and
event.
you don't have to give it away because this is live, but
I did create the event organizer, which we've done a soft launch for it,
okay.
very quietly, just filling it with likes on Facebook before we really launch what the whole product is going to be. And going back, I have always been a venue-driven event planner slash caterer,
Yep.
because I don't think a lot of people actually understand the value of the venue, because the venue is your client. The
Right.
client isn't your client. The client's gone after 5 hours.
Right.
And I want people to really understand it. So that's where we're sort of kind of going with the educational part. And I want to educate venues too, because I came from a world where venues they're over here. Knock on my door if you need toilet paper or the light on. And now you have all of the venues who want to do everything and do everything for everyone. And what I'm trying to educate them on is, the more you put yourself out there, the more you become the person that they're going to equate with the problem. And so if there's something that happens, you will be the one faulted because you did all of this that led up to this.
Right.
And so I want to go back to educating that, because that has been one of my passions, is taking venues that are on the chopping block and turning them into, and I hate saying this, but I'm going to say it, wedding palaces.
Nice.
Because that's what really salvages, and because my whole career has been historic mansions and museums, that's where I thrive, and I love that. I remember having somebody say to me here in this state, in a barn, I went to see about getting my name put on the list of approved professionals to work there. And they had said to me, well, you haven't worked here and we don't know your work, as a bat flew in the hole in the ceiling. And I thought to myself, I have worked in museums with $1 billion worth of art.
Right.
Never been treated this way. Not that I can't be treated anyway, but you have famous Daves on your catering list.
Right.
It was an insult to the time that I put into this industry. And I'm not saying that the doors have to always open for me or you have to roll out a red carpet, but be careful how you speak to anybody, because you're judging books without, judging a book without, the cover or however that saying goes. And I learned that lesson a long time ago when I met my first very, very wealthy person. I didn't judge them. I talked to them. And I remember her throwing the keys on the table of my office and said, oh, I want you to do a Thanksgiving party for me. And I did. And then she had me so I was doing these hoops. And I knew what I was doing because I was already trained in Philadelphia. That's how it works. And this was old money. And if I had a choice, I'd always work for old money as opposed to new money. A lot easier. And I remember, and we struck up this wonderful friendship where most people would have looked the other way because she wasn't dressed the part. And this woman is super wealthy in the Portland area, and I've done a lot of work for her. And one of the things was she gave me a blank check for 5 people, and I brought her back change. And I don't think anybody has ever done that to her, but I figured, you're not playing me. So
yeah, well, and those New Englanders will get you.
Yeah.
For those of you out there who don't know, that I was raised in Connecticut, and before going to college and living out in New York in the boroughs, but I grew up in a area of Connecticut that's very much on the borderline, right? Like one of our borders is New York, so we're very much part of that New York tri-state area, but it's a hop and a skip to pumpkin patches and yachting festivals and different things to our north, so it's that very sort of like interesting borderline area, and right, people especially up in that area are just kind of known for being super casual.
Mm-hmm.
They do not flaunt their wealth. They will come in a pair of $20 Old Navy khakis, and maybe a $300, Anthropology shirt to match, and Crocs.
Exactly.
And you'll be like, oh, this person is all over the map. Well, this person's got the money to be, right? Like kings and queens of the DGAF. Right.
Well, it's sort of like what you said about what are you doing to sort of kind of do your exit strategy. What I've been creating is that I don't want to call myself a consultant, because I think there's a lot of us out there, and everybody does a really well job. I just want to be the person you come to when I want to be paid for the value of the 35 years of experience. And
Right.
if you can take something away from it, that's great. But I will always give you the raw, honest truth of what could happen and what can't happen. Like I do with any client that hires us, I give you the good and the bad, and I lay it all out there. Especially if you pick a venue that this, and this can happen. I'm going to say all three so you understand, because at least I laid the groundwork for when it does happen. You can't sue me because I put it in writing. So. And
Can't say I didn't warn you.
exactly. And I'm just all about, I'm a paper trail kind of person. So that shows myself being dated. And two, I think that the bride, the grooms, the brides and brides, they need to really be educated, because we aren't an industry that is trying to steal your money as other sites, because there are private sites that are out there that are educating brides to go back after the money. And I want to educate them that nobody's here to take their money. It costs what it costs because you are asking for services. There is
Right.
work behind the scenes. So when you say, I want my money back, you don't think that there's a value. And that's where the educational part of the event organizer is coming in. And so we're creating these tiers to, if a bride wants to consult with us before they hire a planner or a venue, that we can educate them on the particular venue. And I can only educate you within the states that I know, which is Philadelphia, New York, and Maine. But I'm not willing to go, I'm willing to go to other states and saying, okay, show me your venue. And then I like to look at people's sites or their website and say, hey, I would take this picture down, A, because I can see the trash can in the corner, or I can see this, and this is wrong, or the table is set wrong. And say, look, I said, I'm only showing you because if you're going to put pretty pictures up, then put them up correctly. That's where the educational part. And there's really where my exit strategy is. And I learned about 2 years ago, when I was putting a price tag on selling the business, that a business isn't really sellable if you are the person and the personality behind it, because people want to buy you, not necessarily the business. And I had to get away from that part of it. And I work for Blue Elephant. I don't own Blue Elephant anymore. I work for Blue Elephant.
Interesting.
So that my brand can be sellable. And again, you have to sort of kind of weigh it out, because who are they? I want to be able to walk away from my business and not have to be tied down to it for a year or 2 year commitment. When I sell it, I want to walk away.
Right. And just like maintain whatever percentage,
like exactly.
If you've negotiated that in there, or
if there's a percentage to keep, you know what I mean? If I'm going to sell it all, then don't call me to figure something out. Here it is. I'm done.
Just buy.
Done. Find me in a little hut somewhere. But, those are the things that we're doing. And then COVID hit. Let's just be honest. I'm only pivoting until I can figure out what to do, because COVID hit and everybody has moved to next year. So the reality, I have put a number on my business, to be honest with you, if we're going to stay in the honesty part, that I'm unwilling to say I'm going to take money out of my personal money anymore. I did that in 9/11. I did that in 2008, 9, and 10. I don't think at 52, with a house, a 14-year-old, and all of that I'm willing to sacrifice my personal income anymore for the business. I have to say to myself, if I reach this and it doesn't work, this could happen. And I'm okay. It doesn't make me a failure. And a lot of people are afraid to say, oh, it'll make you a failure. No, it's not going to make you a failure. This is happening in the entire world.
Right.
I mean, I know companies that have lost 1.2 million in a week.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So.
Well, I think I think it's only a failure when you quit entirely.
Exactly.
It's like when you've given up entirely, and you've just like completely thrown in the towel, and you're like, nope, that's it. I'm going to, walk away from the world, and you can find me, in the woods of Nebraska. I wouldn't even know where the woods of Nebraska are. but that's where you'll find me. I think it's one of those things where we take, we place a lot of emotional value on money. And what we fail to realize is that money doesn't care about you. Yeah. Like anybody who watches the Shark Tank, and you don't like that guy, do you watch Shark Tank, by the way? Okay, so it's not Robert Herjavec. It's the one. It's the guy. It's the guy who's bald headed, a little bit on the mean side.
Oh, he's
Uh,
he actually did something with somebody in Maine. I know who you're talking about. I can't remember
okay.
his
Well,
name.
if you know who it is in the comment section, let us know because we're stuck in it. But you know who I'm talking about. And he is the first one to tell you that money is a dead thing. Money gets you what you need
Hmm.
in life, but it doesn't care if you're a good person. It doesn't care if you're a bad person. It doesn't care about your successes or your failures. So I think that when you're talking about that, when you're talking about creating a sound financial plan for yourself, that's just investment. That's just the nature of investment. Everybody who's out there who invests heavily knows about the exit strategy, the loss strategy.
Hmm.
How much are you willing to lose? What percentage are you willing to lose before you walk away from something, or you pivot, or you do something completely different? Um, so, so that's not a bad thing, you
And
know.
and I
It's
agree.
just not.
I am thankful for where I am and how
Yeah.
I've gotten here, because there are days that I've sat and said, "Oh, I sit on the ICA board, which
Yes.
it's is one of my proudest moments for me, um, because it was the moment that I walked into a room with my peers, family, people who respected me, people who understood what I was thinking of going through, and that I was able to help the conference goers. That I would walk down the halls and they would ask me, not because I was shallow, and they were asking me because I resonated with them in a way that maybe somebody else didn't, because like I said, they were talking at them and not to them. And I'm not saying that there's something wrong in that. I just tend to talk to people the way I would want to be talked to. And I
Right.
want to know how you got those shoes, whether they're Prada or Hermes or whatever you're wearing that's very expensive. It's great when it's all packaged in a really pretty bow, but that bow wasn't always there. So how did you get there? That's what I want to know. So I think that when I see that, and we are part of the leading caterers of America, which is another one of those proud moments. But for me, it always boils down to my proudest moment in this industry is when I finally realized everything from 1985 to 2006, when our daughter was born. And then I missed a step with it because we took 11 years to get the business off the ground, and I missed her growing. I didn't miss it. But you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. You just weren't as present as you would have
Exactly.
wanted to
And
be.
now
Yeah.
COVID brought that all back to us, and we've been stuck in the house since March 13th when we got back from cater stores.
Yep.
Except I was in the hospital while all of you were doing COVID. I went and had an appendicitis for 2 weeks.
Oh, God.
I can't have
Well, you're
a.
looking good.
Thank you.
You're looking good, and Mazel tov.
So I actually spent 2 weeks there, but it made us. I mean, we're all have a lot of our time together, and that's been wonderful, and it's been great. It had its moments where you want to, but I don't think we've actually had a huge blowout. You know what I mean? Like nothing that's been crazy, and it was a good feeling, and it made me sort of kind of feel that it's okay with everything that's going on because we're all going through it, and I don't think people have given themselves that moment to feel okay with that. And I look at it like, okay, how do I want to restructure? What do I want to do? You know, Tarek and Jamie have been so supportive of me, and a lot of, there's Susie and there's Melissa and all of the people that I know through the ICA and through Cater Tours. But I talk to Jamie and I talk to Tarek almost on a daily. Well, we text and then we talk and then we text again, talk again. And Tareka's unity through community has really resonated with me, and especially here in Maine, because we are a white state and because we're not really pivoting in the ways that we should be pivoting.
Right.
And when I say that, I think that we should pivot our businesses to really understand our businesses, because I think people are just doing things because they're just following a trend or a hashtag.
They just don't know what to do.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what's going on, and there's certainly, and I also want to put that out there. There's nothing wrong with following the trend and doing, going as you figure it out.
Yeah.
The point is that you're making progress. The point is that that's not where it sits and it rests.
And you can own both of them. You can
Yeah.
own the that you didn't understand it, and you can understand it that you now get it and understand it.
Right.
And, I look at businesses and it's great, but when I look at a business and somebody says, well, I need your email before I do that, I said, no, my email is valuable. You need my email so you can sell it
Right.
when you sell your business. And I understand all of that and I get it because I'm in business. But do you really like me as a person? Or do you want the value of my SEO? Or because there are venues in the state of Maine that make a ton of money off of my website because they go to their website and then book, but don't book me. You see what I mean? So I've sort of had to redirect that so it always comes back to us because that's a value. Why should I lose it? But if you've gotten the lead from us,
you did the work
first at the table.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why sometimes I feel shut out. And I'm not going, oh, poor me. Please, I got plenty of work and I enjoy what I do. But it can be hurtful sometimes. It really can. Going back to that's one of the reasons why I've started, an exit strategy, because to be honest with you, I don't want to have those arguments and those fights anymore, or the chasing the almighty dollar, because it hasn't made me richer or happier, to be honest with you. I am happy where I am at, and I don't need $1 million in my back to make me even happier. I am really, I joke around so much that I tell people all the time, 12-year-old head, 52-year-old body.
No, but I think that you strike a very important note, especially for those people who are out there who maybe are in business. You've been in business for a long time. You're like, you know what, I'm done. Or maybe you're just not done. Maybe you're just done with exactly what you're doing right now, and you're like, what's that next? What's that next movement? What's that next growth? That's what we're talking about, is growth. That it's okay to say. And it's okay to not be motivated by money.
Yeah.
It's okay to find your happiness in other things. Not that there's anything wrong that if you're motivated by money and that's what you want to do.
But I'm not saying I'm the first to say
do it.
Everybody's wedding if the check clears.
Right.
I learned a long time ago that I remember once I had a couple in my office. It was Ruben, and our receptionist actually had to sort of kind of graciously kick them out. Because when they found out we were gay and they made several comments at the table, it was very awkward. And we had to sort of kind of like get out without saying get out, so it didn't escalate into this big problem. And I've also been at one of my venues that's mine, and I had to go get flowers and be called a faggot and not turn around and lose my cool when I should have. But
how 1985 of that person? Like who even?
And it was a flower girl. It was like a junior bridesmaid or something. She was old enough to know that was the right, like 16. And I actually was walking out to the car to get the flowers that they left in the limo, and I had not made the transportation sort of kind of part of the deal. They got that on their own, and when I looked out, it was a Hummer. And not judging a book by its cover, but if you're driving a Hummer, I clearly know where you're at. And when I came in and brought the flowers and was getting them lined up to get them down the aisle, that's when I turned, and that's when she said it, and I'm like, And it took everything in me not to turn around and say anything, but I looked around and I had to finish the job because the professional side of me came into play, and I did everything, but I flicked those lights on and I kicked them out as quickly as I could out of my building. And that was it. And I never looked back, and I moved forward. And those are the things, that either make you strong or make you weak at the end of the day. But, and I can only talk about me and how I feel. Again, I'm not saying that should I have taken a stand? I probably should have. And I probably would have if I had millions and millions of dollars behind me. But I don't. And people who rely on me for their job.
Here's the hard thing about that. When somebody makes a personal attack, because I have been on site for weddings, one just a few years ago, where the sister of the bride made a very personal and hateful attack on me, because she did not like my body size, but she did not like my personality. She didn't like anything. She didn't like the groom. She was a miserable ass. There you go. And it catches you off guard, You know, it's like, okay, and then you find yourself like, okay, am I going to make a scene like the girl who called you that antiquated, ridiculous slur? She was the one who said it. Are you not? You know, I assume she was not the client.
No, she was a junior bridesmaid.
Okay, do you ruin your client's moment? Do you ruin your client's day because someone she knows is a vile person that you
Right.
basically want to punch in the teeth?
Mhm.
Like you don't. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like that's when you know that's when you know you're the true professional. Yes, it would have been great for you to take a stand, but you know what? We'll save that for other moments. You'll get your moment.
And
There are other times.
and you do it with whatever you do. I mean, I've been putting boutonnieres on the groomsmen, and my joke is, I said, I've pinned you, but we're not going steady. And I try to break the ice because here's a man putting a boutonniere on another man, and they might not feel that
I
comfortable.
think that's hilarious.
So I think it's funny. So they laugh and it breaks the ice. But then I
Yeah.
see some guys that are like, oh, it's J-Lo. I'm like, no, I don't want to be a woman. I'm comfortable
Right.
being a man, and men are allowed to be wedding planners.
Right.
So this isn't just a woman area to do. It men can be planners, and we can come in, black, white, Hispanic, all of that.
Of
And
course.
and so when I heard that, it was offensive a little bit because I thought he was calling me a girl, and that sort of kind of froze me for a moment, and then I
Right.
just haha laughed it off and continued booting, and then that's when I came up with that phrase. I'm like, okay, well, we're not going steady now. I'm just pinning you, and then it sort of broke the ice, and I remember it, but I don't remember it anymore as a negative like I used to, because I cleaned up my baggage, and I don't care. I can't carry it forever. It's just I can't live with that stuff.
And ultimately, we have to remember that when people, and this is not necessarily even specifically about these incidences, but when we're talking about it all, when we're talking about when you don't get published because your work does not suit a particular aesthetic, that when you're at a networking event and you feel like you're getting shut out because you are, and you're not quite sure what it is. Is it your sex? Is it your sexuality? Is it this? Is it? You're not really you're never sure. You're never sure what that's going to be about. That we talk about that. Eventually, like you just if you just keep pushing forward,
Mm-hmm.
you just keep pushing forward. You have wonderful conversations with people like Fausto, who are going to tell you like, I've been down that road too. So, and then you swap strategies.
Exactly.
And then, like, this is what I did. This is what yeah.
Exactly. Well, I want to show you one thing.
Yeah.
I hope that you can see this. Oops, I don't know where it went.
Go do it.
It's Tarek and Jamie, and we're at MBA, and we had this moment, and people stopped all around us because we just caused this kind of stir. But they have really, for me, in the conference world, have
Right.
just been supportive. I said to Tarek one day, the first time I found people who have never taken something from me and have given me something. I've always had takers, never givers. And that's one of the things that I found in this community. And I encourage people to go out of your box and go to conferences, because you will find that.
You'll find
And
them.
when you are afraid of
Yeah.
the click, break into that click. Find out what you want to know about that person. Because I did. There are people I sought out, and now I sit with them and I talk to them, and they're people I can call up and say, hey, I remember one time, Vicky Priest, who I adore, I was doing something and I copied something from South Africa, and I copied and I texted her and I showed her the picture, and she gave me, and this was 5 or 6 years ago, and now every time we're at a conference, I was honored this year that I got to present an award to her, because I was one of the presenters, and I got to present an award to somebody I idolize. And those are the barriers that you break down, because she sees me as an equal. And this is a planner who looks at me as an equal. And same thing with Tarek, and same thing with Jamie or Melissa, Meryl, Susie, all of these people. They don't just look at me as, here he is, with all his funny ha-ha. They can
Right.
be equal. And I think that that's what the takeaway I want from the show is, that look at me as an equal. And if if that doesn't work, then that's okay too. We don't have to be friends and exchange Christmas cards. I'm good,
You don't have to like me, but you're going to respect me.
Exactly. The respect thing respect is
Right.
never given. So
Right.
I need to remember that with people. Earn it. Don't just think that you get respect as you're walking in the door.
Yeah.
There.
And ultimately, other people's attitudes, that's a them problem.
Exactly.
That's a total them problem. It hurts you, but it's really their own. Because if there's one thing that I think we've all learned is that people don't exist in silos. That the person who is really negative or is the person prone to block you or to just not play well in the sandbox. Like their behavior towards you isn't an exclusive thing. That they probably do this in so many other areas of their life.
Yeah.
That they're probably swimming in misery.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think we've all been around long enough to see that come
and we all need
in
each other
reality.
in this industry. We
Yeah.
do. We need to hold each other up and not knock each other down. At the end
Kindness is free.
Exactly.
Just don't be a jerk. That's also not free. That's also free, I should say.
Exactly.
That's also free. It's just there's so many things. There are so many things. Well, Fausto, I think that I think you and I could probably sit here for another 3 hours and just talk and talk and talk. But I do want to be respectful. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for reaching out to me. I want to point that out for people who sometimes ask like how they can get on my show. Just you texted me and I was like, hey, cool. I didn't even realize you were interested. So fabulous. I didn't even realize you watched. It's all good. And so I do want to be respectful of everyone's time and of course your time. I have my final wrap up question. It's the way that I like to wrap up all my interviews. So when so here it is. When we open up and you can go 100% anywhere you want to and do what you want to do and eat what you want to eat. Where are you going and what are you eating?
I want to go to Cuba and I want to have ropa vieja.
That's the best.
I miss being in Cuba, to be honest with you, and I'm trying to buy my grandmother's house. So there you go.
Fabulous. That might be a field trip. We might.
You can come. Absolutely. You'll have a ball.
Yeah. I feel like Terica and Jamie have already booked these seats on either side of you. Without, by the time we wrap up this interview, they would have already booked the row and be like, "Yep, we're all going. Just come on down." But yeah, that'll be really wonderful. I think I'm getting that overwhelmingly is that people they just want to spend time, with family or doing living life.
Yeah.
Living life. But all right, thank you again so much. I have greatly enjoyed this conversation.
Sure.
And of course, if you greatly enjoyed this conversation, make sure to reach out to Fausto. He's just, again, industry rock star, wealth of information, and he likes to share. So, he's a sharer. So please make sure to reach out to him. So again, thank you so much. And I hope you all enjoy your day.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.